"Sir, that baby in the nursery is not the one they told you he is." The little girl's whisper stopped Mafia boss Leo Romano before his hand reached the inheritance papers beside the white crib. Willow Bennett stood there clutching an old hospital bracelet, while Isabella Romano smiled politely and tried to step between them. "She is only a maid's child," Isabella said softly. Willow looked at Leo and whispered, "Please look at the name on it." 3 hours earlier, the Romano mansion had been preparing for a celebration that everyone believed would secure the future of the family. The marble halls were filled with quiet footsteps, expensive perfume, and the careful movements of people who knew one wrong sound could disturb Leo Romano. The nursery was the safest room in the entire estate. Guards watched the entrance. Cameras covered every corner. The baby inside was supposed to be the beginning of a new chapter for the Romano family. Leo stood near the window that evening, wearing his black tailored suit and the old gold watch his father had given him years before. In his hand was the final document that would officially recognize his newborn son as the future heir of the Romano name. Around him, everyone looked exactly as they were supposed to. Isabella stood beside the crib with the calm expression of a devoted mother. Evelyn Carter, the baby's nanny, adjusted the blanket carefully. The family lawyer waited with a folder. The servants remained silent. But across the room, Willow noticed something nobody else did. She noticed the bracelet. Earlier that day, while helping her mother Clara Bennett organize old storage boxes, Willow had found a small wooden box hidden beneath folded fabric. Inside was a hospital bracelet that looked old and fragile, with faded ink and a tiny plastic tag. Clara had quickly taken it from her hand and said it was nothing important. But Willow remembered the way her mother's face changed. It was not the face of someone who found an old object. It was the face of someone who found something dangerous. Now, standing outside the nursery, Willow saw another bracelet on the baby's wrist. Something about it felt wrong. The color was different. The hospital marking was different. The name printed on the tag did not match the one she had seen before. Willow did not understand the entire story. She did not know about power, inheritance, or the games adults played behind closed doors. She only knew that something meant to belong to a child had been changed. When Leo noticed her standing there, his expression hardened. He was used to people approaching him with demands, lies, and hidden motives. A 9-year-old girl holding an old bracelet should have meant nothing. "Willow," he said quietly, "why are you in this room?" She looked at him, then at the crib. "Because someone changed something," she answered. The room became still. Isabella immediately stepped forward with a gentle smile. "Leo, she probably found something and misunderstood. Children imagine things. Let me handle this." Her voice was calm. Too calm. Leo noticed it. He noticed that she did not ask what Willow had found. She did not look confused. She looked afraid for a moment before the smile returned. Willow slowly opened her hand and revealed the old hospital bracelet. Leo looked at it without moving. The room had been full of noise only seconds before, but now even the sound of the clock seemed too loud. "Where did you get that?" Leo asked. Willow glanced toward her mother, who stood frozen near the doorway. Clara looked down, as if carrying a secret she had been protecting for years. Leo stepped closer and took the bracelet carefully. He expected to find a child's forgotten keepsake. Instead, he saw a detail that made his expression change. The hospital name printed on the bracelet was the same hospital that delivered his son. And the date on it was not the date Isabella had given him. Leo stared at the bracelet for several seconds, his fingers tightening around the faded plastic tag. The room remained silent, but the silence had changed. It was no longer the quiet of a wealthy family gathering. It was the quiet before a storm. "Leo," Isabella said softly, stepping closer. "You cannot seriously be questioning everything because of something a child found in a storage box." Her tone was gentle, almost comforting. But Leo noticed something that bothered him. She did not ask what was written on the bracelet. She already seemed to know. He placed the bracelet on the table instead of giving it back. "Everyone leaves," he said calmly. "I need a moment." Nobody argued. Nobody wanted to be the person who ignored that tone. As the room slowly emptied, Willow remained near the doorway beside her mother. Clara reached for her daughter's hand. "Willow, you should have told me first." Her voice was quiet, not angry, carried fear. Willow looked down. "I thought if I waited, someone would throw it away." That sentence stayed with Leo longer than he expected. Not because of the bracelet, because a child had learned that important things disappeared when adults decided they were inconvenient. Later that night, Leo sat alone in his private office overlooking the estate. The bracelet rested beside his father's old gold watch. Two objects from different worlds. One represented power. The other represented a question. He called no one. He made no accusations. Leo Romano had survived by knowing that the first person who reacted was usually the first person who revealed something. Instead, he reviewed the nursery records quietly. Feeding schedules, doctor visits, security entries, staff access logs. Everything appeared normal, almost too normal. Then he noticed a small detail. The nursery access report showed Evelyn Carter entering the room at 2:13 in the morning 3 nights earlier. There was no reason for the nanny to be there. The baby had been sleeping. Leo looked at the screen again. A second entry appeared under her name, then disappeared. Someone had removed part of the record. The next morning, the mansion looked exactly the same. Breakfast was served. Staff moved through the halls. Isabella sat across from Leo, smiling while discussing the baby's upcoming family announcement. "You seemed tired last night," she said. "I hope nothing disturbed you." Leo lifted his coffee cup slowly. "Nothing important." Isabella smiled. "Good, because sometimes people create problems where there are none." Across the room, Willow helped Clara arrange clean towels. She did not look at Leo. She did not try to get his attention. That surprised him. Most people who brought him information wanted something in return. Willow only watched. When Evelyn walked past the nursery, Willow quietly stopped folding the towel in her hands. Leo noticed. "What is it?" he asked. Willow hesitated. "Nothing." He waited. She looked at her mother, then spoke carefully. The nanny used to wear a silver key card on her belt. Yesterday she changed it. Leo looked toward Evelyn. A small black access card hung from her uniform. Something so ordinary that nobody would question it. "Why does that matter?" Leo asked. Willow answered honestly. "Because the old one had a scratch near the corner. She always touched it before opening the nursery door. The new one doesn't." Leo said nothing. It was a small observation, almost meaningless. But Leo had built an empire by understanding small things. Small changes, small lies, small mistakes. That afternoon, he asked his security chief for a quiet report on every staff access card connected to the nursery. The answer came back within minutes. Evelyn's old card had been replaced 6 days earlier. No replacement request had been filed. No explanation had been recorded. Leo looked through the glass wall toward the nursery where Isabella stood beside the crib, gently adjusting the baby's blanket. She looked like the perfect mother. She looked like someone who belonged there. Then Leo's phone received one silent notification from the security system. A deleted access record had just been restored. The missing entry showed that the person who removed Evelyn's nursery access log was not Evelyn. It was someone with a master key card belonging to the Romano family itself. The restored access record remained open on Leo Romano's screen, glowing quietly in the darkness of his office. A master key card belonging to the Romano family had been used to erase Evelyn Carter's nursery entry. Not a staff card. Not a mistake. A family-level access. Leo leaned back slowly, his face unreadable, but his eyes stayed fixed on the timestamp. Someone inside his own house had tried to remove a piece of the truth. The next morning, Leo did something he had not done in years. He walked through his own mansion without announcing himself. No security detail, no warning, just observation. He found Willow in the staff kitchen, sitting beside Clara while helping fold small towels. The little girl looked tired, but when she saw Leo, she immediately stood. Not because she was afraid of him, because she had learned to respect the space of powerful people. You were right about one thing, Leo said. Willow looked up carefully. Which thing, sir? Something was changed. Willow did not smile. She only nodded. I thought so. That answer caught him off guard. Most people would have celebrated being proven right. Willow looked almost sad instead. Why didn't you tell me everything yesterday? Leo asked. Willow looked at her mother before answering. Because I don't know everything. Pause followed. I only know what I saw. Leo studied her. In his world, people used confidence as a weapon. They exaggerated. They manipulated. They filled empty spaces with lies. But this child did the opposite. She left empty spaces when she did not know the answer. What exactly did you see? Leo asked. Willow reached into her small wooden box and carefully removed a folded piece of paper. It was not new. The edges were soft from being handled many times. This was inside the box with the bracelet, she said. Leo unfolded it. It was a page from a nursery logbook. Most of the writing was faded, but one line was clear. A baby's feeding schedule, a nurse's initials, and a date. Leo looked closer. The date was 3 days before the official birth record Isabella had given him. His expression did not change, but his hand stopped moving. Where did you get this? He asked. My mom had it. Clara immediately looked up. Her face changed. Willow. It was not anger. It was fear. Leo noticed. Clara, he said quietly. Why did you keep this? Clara lowered her eyes. Because I didn't know who to trust. The answer was honest, and it hurt more than an accusation. Later that afternoon, Leo asked Clara to come to his office alone. She stood near the door, nervous but calm. Tell me what happened, he said. Clara looked at the bracelet on his desk. Years ago, when the baby was born, there was confusion at the hospital. People were moved. Records were changed. I tried to ask questions. And? Leo asked. Clara swallowed. I was told to stop. Before Leo could respond, the office door opened. Isabella entered with a polite smile. I hope I'm not interrupting. Her voice was warm. Her expression was perfect. I only wanted to check on Clara. She seemed upset. Leo watched her carefully. Why would she be upset? Isabella paused for half a second. Barely noticeable. Then she smiled again. Because some people create fear when they don't understand things. Willow, standing outside the doorway, heard those words. Her fingers tightened around the edge of her small wooden box. She remembered something. Something adults had ignored. Sir, Willow said quietly. Everyone turned. Isabella looked annoyed for the first time. Willow, this conversation is for adults. The words sounded polite, but they were not kind. Willow lowered her eyes for a moment, then spoke. The paper was not from my mom's box originally. Leo looked at her. What do you mean? Willow pointed to the folded page. The fold marks. Someone opened it many times. But my mom folds papers from the left side. This one was folded from the right. The room went silent. It was a small detail, a child's observation, almost nothing. But Leo looked down at the paper again, then at Isabella, because suddenly he remembered something else. The missing nursery access log, the changed keycard, the erased footage, the altered records. They were not separate mistakes. They were pieces of the same pattern. And beneath the paper, hidden behind the old fold, Leo noticed a faint mark that had been pressed into the page for years. A hospital seal that was never supposed to still be there. The faint hospital seal pressed into the old paper stayed beneath Leo Romano's fingers like a message from a past nobody wanted him to read. For several seconds, no one in the private study spoke. Isabella's smile remained perfectly placed, but Leo noticed the smallest movement. Her hand reached toward the edge of the desk, then stopped before touching the paper. She caught herself. That was the mistake. Leo saw it. Interesting, he said quietly. A piece of paper from years ago appears, and everyone in this room already knows what it means except me. Isabella gave a soft laugh, the kind designed to calm a room. Leo, you are letting suspicion turn ordinary things into evidence. A damaged page, a child's observation, a forgotten bracelet. None of this proves anything. Her words were reasonable. That was what made them dangerous. She was not angry. She was not defensive. She sounded like the only adult trying to keep order. The kind of person people trusted when emotions became complicated. Leo looked at Willow standing beside Clara. The little girl was holding the wooden box against her chest. She was not trying to convince anyone anymore. She had already shown what she had. Now she was simply waiting to see if the adults would choose to look. "Bring me the nursery records," Leo said. The family lawyer, Thomas Hale, adjusted his glasses. "Mr. Romano, before we escalate this, perhaps we should consider the source. Miss Bennett is 9 years old. She may have found unrelated documents and connected things that do not belong together." Willow lowered her eyes, but she did not step back. "I didn't connect them," she said quietly. "The dates did." The room became still. Leo turned toward her. "Explain." Willow walked slowly to the desk. She did not touch the papers. She pointed instead. "The page says the baby was checked at 6:40 in the morning. But the hospital bracelet says the baby was registered later." Thomas looked at the paper. "That is not enough to prove anything."
"No," Willow answered.
"But it means someone should ask why." It was a simple sentence.
"No accusation."
No drama. Yet nobody had an answer. Leo requested the nursery access records again, this time directly from security. Minutes later, the report arrived. The same report he had seen before. Everything appeared normal. Evelyn's name. Regular entries. No missing information. Isabella exhaled softly, almost relieved. "You see?" she said. "The system confirms nothing unusual happened." Leo did not respond. He studied the screen. Something bothered him. The report was too clean, too complete. He looked at Willow. "You said something was missing." Willow nodded. "The sound." Everyone looked at her. Leo frowned slightly. "The sound. The nursery door makes a small bell sound when it opens after midnight," Willow said. "I hear it when my mom works late. But the report says nobody entered during that time." Security exchanged uncomfortable looks. Leo immediately turned toward the security chief. "Check the audio logs." The chief hesitated. "Sir, those are usually not stored unless there is a security event." "Check anyway." A few minutes passed. Then the chief's expression changed. "Mr. Romano." Leo looked up. "What?" The door sensor recorded movement, but the audio file attached to that entry is missing. Isabella slowly stood. "Leo, this is becoming excessive." Her voice remained calm, but the room felt colder. "You are questioning staff because of a child's memory of a sound?" Leo looked at her.
"No."
He closed the report. "I am questioning why a security record exists without the part that should accompany it." Nobody spoke. For the first time, Isabella had no immediate answer. She recovered quickly. "Then investigate. If there is nothing, I hope everyone understands how unfair this has been to me." She looked toward Willow. It was not a cruel look. That would have been easier. It was a look that made the child feel invisible. Willow tightened her grip on the wooden box but stayed silent. Leo noticed. He noticed the way she refused to fight for attention. He noticed the way Isabella wanted her to disappear without ever raising her voice. That evening, Leo reviewed the nursery camera system one more time. Isabella believed the matter was under control. The records looked clean. The staff remained loyal. The questions appeared unanswered. But when Leo zoomed into the access screen, he saw one tiny detail nobody had noticed. The deleted audio file had not been removed by a technician. It had been manually opened first, and the person who opened it had used a family master keycard that belonged to someone who was never supposed to enter the nursery at all. The family master keycard remained on Leo Romano's screen long after everyone had left the room. Small line of information, a small piece of data. But Leo had learned a long time ago that small things were usually where people hid the truth. The access record showed that the card belonged to someone with authority inside the Romano family. Someone who could walk through any door without being questioned. Someone who had been trusted. Leo closed the file and made one call. Lock the nursery records. No one changes anything. No one touches anything. The order was calm, controlled. But the people who knew Leo understood something had shifted. He was no longer looking for an explanation. He was preserving evidence. By sunrise, the nursery became the most carefully protected room in the mansion. Security photographed every document, every item on the shelves, every drawer. Every piece of paper was placed into sealed evidence folders. Willow watched quietly from the hallway beside Clara. She held her small wooden box with both hands. She looked smaller than the room around her, surrounded by marble floors, expensive paintings, and people who had spent their entire lives protecting powerful families. But Leo noticed something. She was the only person there who did not seem interested in winning. She only wanted nobody to erase what happened. "Willow?" Leo said, walking toward her. "Is there anything else in that box?" The little girl looked down at it. She hesitated, not because she wanted to hide something, because she understood the weight of what she carried. "One thing," she said. She opened the wooden box carefully and removed a folded piece of cloth. Inside was a small hospital bracelet wrapped around a faded blue ribbon. Leo stared at it. "Why didn't you show me this before?" Willow looked at him. "Because I thought the first one was enough." That answer surprised him. A child who understood that evidence could become dangerous. Clara stepped forward immediately. "Willow, where did you get that?" "You kept it in the bottom drawer," Willow answered softly. "I found it when I was looking for my old school papers." Clara's face changed. Not panic. Pain. "I told myself I would destroy it," she whispered. Leo looked at Clara. "Why didn't you?" Clara looked away. "Because some part of me hoped someone would eventually ask the right question." Leo took the bracelet, but he did not touch it carelessly. He placed it on a clean evidence sheet and photographed it before anyone moved it again. The same hospital name, the same kind of tag. But this one had something different. A handwritten mark near the corner. Tiny number. Leo recognized the hospital code immediately. It was not from the public records. It was from a private maternity wing used by families who required confidentiality. His expression tightened. "Where did you get this?" he asked Clara. "The hospital," she said. "The night your son was born." The room became silent. Leo looked at the bracelet again. Then he looked at Willow. "Why did you notice this?" Willow answered honestly. "Because the bracelet in the nursery looked new. This one looked like it had been held by someone who was scared to lose it." That sentence stayed with him. Not because it proved anything. It did not. But because it explained something no report could explain. Someone had been protecting this object for years. Leo immediately called Thomas Hale, his family attorney. "I need a private verification. No hospital contact through normal channels. Use independent records. Document every person who handles this evidence." Thomas understood. This was no longer a family disagreement. This was a chain of custody issue. The bracelet was sealed. Copies were made. Photos were stored. Every movement was recorded. Hours later, the preliminary hospital comparison arrived. The result was not a confirmation. Not yet. But it was enough to change the air inside the room. The bracelet number matched a delivery record that had been closed under a different name. Leo read the report twice. Then a third time. The baby record connected to that bracelet had existed. Someone had simply removed it from the official file. For the first time, Leo did not look toward the nursery. He looked toward the person who had been standing beside that nursery every day. Isabella, the woman who had always known exactly what to say. The woman who had never once asked what was written on the bracelet. Leo folded the report and placed it inside the evidence folder. The proof was still incomplete. The truth was still hidden. But one thing was no longer possible to ignore. Someone he trusted had not been protecting his family. They had been protecting a secret. The evidence folder sat on Leo Romano's desk for 3 days without being opened again. Not because he had forgotten about it, because he understood something most people never learned about power. The moment you reveal what you know, you reveal what you can lose. The bracelet, the altered records, the missing access logs, and the hospital file were no longer separate questions. They were a pattern. But Leo needed to know who had built it, and why. The mansion continued pretending nothing had changed. Breakfast was served at the same time. Staff walked the same marble hallways. The baby's room remained decorated with soft colors and expensive furniture. From the outside, the Romano family looked untouched. Inside, Leo had quietly changed everything. He moved the nursery documents into a private archive. He replaced the security team assigned to the East Wing without explaining why. He asked Thomas Hale to reopen old legal records from the night his son was born.
No questions. No threats.
Just questions. Find every document connected to the birth registration, Leo said. Not the final version. Every version. Thomas understood immediately. Someone had not simply changed a paper. Someone had replaced a history. That evening, rain tapped softly against the kitchen windows. For a few minutes, the mansion felt almost normal. Clara sat at the small staff table while Willow drank warm milk and watched a quiet television program in the corner. The sound of a spoon touching a glass filled the silence. Leo stood in the doorway watching them. He was used to seeing fear when people saw him. But Clara and Willow did not look at him like a man with power. They looked at him like someone who still had a choice. "You should not be involved in this," Leo said quietly to Willow. The girl looked down at her cup. "I know." "Then why are you?" She thought for a moment before answering. "Because if someone changed something about a baby, someone has to say it." Leo looked at her. "You could ask for anything." Willow shook her head. "I don't want anything." She looked toward her mother. "I just don't want my mom to lose her job because she told the truth." That answer stayed with him. The next morning, Thomas arrived with a new file. It contained old payment records from the private maternity wing. One transaction stood out. A consulting payment made 2 weeks after the birth. The recipient was not a hospital employee. It was a company connected to a family trust. Leo studied the name. It belonged to a company that had been inactive for years, but someone had recently reopened the account. Someone had moved money through it. He asked for the ownership records. The answer came back within an hour. The company was connected to Isabella's former legal advisor. Not enough to accuse her. Enough to ask a more dangerous question. Why had Isabella's people been involved before anyone knew there was a problem? Leo did not confront her. Instead, he watched. That evening, Isabella walked into his office carrying a cup of tea. "You have been distant," she said softly. "I know something is bothering you." Leo looked at her. The woman who once seemed like the only person in his life who understood him now felt like a locked door. "Do you remember the night our son was born?" he asked. Isabella smiled sadly. "Of course." "Everything about it?" Tiny pause. A fraction of a second. Then she answered. "Everything important." Leo noticed the wording. Everything important. Not everything. Later that night, Leo reviewed the old hospital records himself. A name appeared again and again.
Dr. Adrian Valli.
The family doctor who had signed the final documents. The man Leo had trusted enough to let near his child. Leo opened the old contract files connected to the inheritance paperwork. One page had been replaced. The formatting was identical. The signatures looked correct. But the page number at the bottom was wrong. Someone had inserted a new agreement into the middle of an old document. Leo stared at it for a long time. The betrayal was no longer a possibility. It was a structure, carefully built, patiently hidden. And the most painful part was not discovering who had lied. It was realizing how long he had protected the people who were doing it. The replaced page from the inheritance contract remained face down on Leo Romano's desk. He had not shown it to anyone. Not Isabella. Not Thomas. Not even Clara. A man like Leo did not survive by revealing the moment he discovered a weakness. He survived by letting people believe they were still in control. For the next 48 hours, Leo became quieter, more polite, more predictable, and that was exactly what made everyone around him nervous. He continued attending meetings. He continued sitting beside Isabella at dinner. He continued allowing the family to believe nothing had changed. But behind closed doors, every movement inside the mansion was being recorded. Every access point was reviewed. Every document was copied. Leo was no longer searching for proof. He was preparing to catch the person who thought there was none. Thomas placed a new file on his desk late one evening. "We found something unusual," he said. The replacement page in the inheritance contract was not added recently. It was inserted before the final signature. Leo looked up. Meaning someone planned this before the baby was even recognized as the heir. The room became silent. The betrayal had moved backward in time. It was not a desperate decision. It was preparation. The next morning, Leo created a simple test. Nothing dramatic. Nothing obvious. He asked Isabella a harmless question during breakfast. "Do you remember which doctor was present when our son was transferred from the hospital to the private wing?" Isabella did not hesitate. "Dr. Vale, of course." Leo nodded and took a sip of coffee. "Of course." He did not correct her. He did not reveal that Dr. Vale's original hospital schedule showed he was not even on the property during that transfer window. A small mistake. A human mistake. The kind of mistake people made when they repeated a story too many times. Across the table, Isabella continued eating, but her hand stopped briefly near her cup. Leo noticed. Later that afternoon, he placed another quiet test inside the mansion. A sealed envelope containing a fake hospital verification request was left inside his private study. The envelope was positioned exactly where only someone searching through his documents would notice it. The wax seal was marked with a tiny family symbol used only by Romano legal files. Nobody was told about it. Nobody should have known it existed. Willow watched from a distance as Leo spoke with security. She did not ask questions. She only noticed one thing. The clock in the hallway was 7 minutes slow. "Sir," she said quietly. Leo looked down at her. "What is it?" The guard said he checked the study at 8 o'clock. But the hallway clock said 7:53. Leo looked toward the clock. A small detail, something most people would ignore, but Willow had noticed. "Why does that matter?" Leo asked. "Because the guard always checks the clock before he writes the report," she answered. "My mom says he does it every night." Leo said nothing. He simply looked at the security report again. The timestamp was exactly 8 minutes earlier than the camera footage. Someone had adjusted the timeline. Someone had needed events to appear in the wrong order. That evening, the fake envelope disappeared. Leo waited. He did not move. He did not send anyone after it. He simply watched the security feed. 40 minutes later, Evelyn Carter entered the study. She looked around before taking the envelope. She did not open it there. She placed it inside her coat pocket and walked away. Leo followed the footage silently. Then something unexpected happened. Evelyn stopped in the hallway. She looked directly at the security camera. For a moment it seemed like she knew. Then she continued walking. A few minutes later, Leo received a message from Thomas. The envelope had been opened, but the person who opened it was not Evelyn. The wax seal had been broken using a second set of tools. Someone else had taken the contents afterward. Leo stared at the screen. Isabella had believed she was controlling the story. Evelyn had believed she was hiding it. But now Leo knew something more dangerous. They were not working alone. The camera light blinked once. And on the recorded footage, a third shadow appeared outside the study door, waiting for the envelope before anyone else could reach it. The third shadow outside the study door remained frozen on the security footage for only 6 seconds. But 6 seconds was enough for Leo Romano to understand the shape of the betrayal inside his own house. He did not ask who it was. Not yet. He simply watched the footage again and again until every movement became clear. The person never entered the room. They never touched the envelope. They only waited until Evelyn left. then followed the path she had taken. Someone had been managing the people who thought they were hiding the truth. 2 days later, the Romano family gathered in the private meeting room beneath the main mansion. It was the same room where Leo had once announced his son's birth to the family. The same room where Isabella had stood beside him, smiling while everyone celebrated the future of the Romano name. This time, nobody celebrated. Isabella entered wearing the same calm expression she had always worn. Evelyn stood beside her, nervous but still pretending everything was normal. Dr. Adrian Vale arrived last, carrying a leather briefcase and the confidence of a man who believed his reputation could protect him. Leo sat at the head of the table, quiet, still, almost impossible to read. "You wanted to discuss concerns about the inheritance documents," Isabella said gently. "I hope we can finally put this misunderstanding behind us." Leo looked at her. "So do I." He placed a sealed evidence folder on the table. The room changed immediately, not because of what was inside, because of how carefully it had been handled. Thomas Hale opened the folder. The first item was the original inheritance contract. The second was the altered copy. The third was the access report showing the replaced page had been inserted before Leo's final signature. Nobody spoke. Then came the security footage. The missing 17 minutes from the nursery system. The restored audio file. The master keycard entry. The room became colder with every piece of evidence. Isabella remained silent. Dr. Vale adjusted his cuff. Evelyn looked down. But Leo was not watching them. He was watching Willow. The little girl stood near the doorway beside Clara, holding her small wooden box. She had not asked to be there. She had not demanded attention. She had simply been allowed to witness the truth she had tried to protect from the beginning. Thomas placed the final item on the table, the hospital bracelet. "This was independently verified," he said. "The record connected to this bracelet existed before the official birth record was created. Someone removed it from the hospital system." Dr. Vale finally spoke. "That does not prove a child was switched." Leo looked at him. "No, not by itself." Then Willow stepped forward. Her voice was quiet. The bracelet was not the only thing. Every person in the room turned toward her. Isabella's expression tightened. "Willow, you have already caused enough confusion." The words were polite, almost gentle. But this time, nobody ignored what was hidden underneath them. Willow looked at Leo, not Isabella. "The night you showed everyone the baby, the nanny said the hospital blanket was new. But it wasn't." She opened the wooden box and removed the old photograph she had found with the damaged nursery papers. It showed a newborn wrapped in a hospital blanket with a small stitched mark in the corner. Leo took the photo. His fingers stopped moving. The blanket in the photograph matched the one kept in the nursery storage room. The one Isabella had said was purchased after the birth. For the first time during the entire investigation, Leo Romano went completely still. Not angry, not threatening, just silent. Because he remembered. He remembered asking Isabella where the blanket came from. He remembered accepting her answer without question. He remembered trusting the person standing closest to him while ignoring the people who had the least power to speak. Willow's voice broke through the silence. "I didn't know why it mattered. I just knew someone changed it." Leo looked at the evidence spread across the table. The bracelet, the contract, the footage, the photograph. Years of carefully arranged lies had finally become visible. Isabella tried one last time. "Leo, you cannot destroy this family over the words of a child." Leo slowly turned toward her. His expression had changed. The man in front of her was no longer the husband who wanted to believe her. He was the man who had built an empire by recognizing threats before they reached his door. He picked up the original contract and placed it beside the forged version. Then he removed his wedding ring from his hand and set it on the table. Not as an emotional gesture, as a decision. He looked at Thomas Hale and spoke in a voice so calm that everyone in the room understood the danger. "Call my attorney, and prepare everything for the authorities." The words, "call my attorney," remained in the room long after Leo Romano left the table. No one moved. No one spoke. For years, people had feared Leo because of what he could do when someone betrayed him. But the people sitting in that room discovered something more powerful than anger. They saw a man who had finally decided to stop protecting a lie. The investigation moved quickly after that, but not recklessly. Leo refused to turn the truth into another act of power. Every piece of evidence was handled through proper channels. The original inheritance contract was preserved. The altered page was examined by forensic document specialists. The hospital bracelet was sealed and entered into official records. The restored security footage, the missing 17-minute audio file, the access logs, and the financial records connected to the shell company were all documented. This time, nobody could erase what had happened. Isabella Romano was removed from control of the family trust while the legal process began. Her access to company accounts was suspended. The board of Romano Holdings reviewed the evidence and formally rejected the inheritance documents created through fraud. Dr. Adrian Vale lost his medical license while investigators examined the falsified birth records and his financial involvement. Evelyn Carter cooperated with the investigation, admitting that she had followed Isabella's instructions because she feared losing everything. Her statement became part of the official record. She was no longer protected by silence, but she was also no longer trapped by it. The truth had consequences, but it also created a path forward. For Clara Bennett, the change came in a place where she never expected it. The same dining room where she had once stood quietly while wealthy guests discussed things she was never invited to understand. This time, Leo asked her to sit at the table. Not stand behind it. Not serve it. Sit at it. In front of the family staff and senior members of the Romano organization, Leo spoke clearly. For years, Clara Bennett protected my family while this family ignored hers. He paused. That was wrong. Clara looked down, overwhelmed. She had spent years believing survival meant staying invisible. Leo changed that. Her employment contract was rewritten. Her position was protected. Her salary was increased. But more importantly, her name was restored. She was no longer simply the maid. She was the person who brought the truth back into the Romano home. Willow watched quietly beside her mother. She did not smile because she had won. She smiled because nobody was asking her to prove herself anymore. A week later, Leo returned to the nursery. The room looked different. Not because the furniture had changed, because the secrets were gone. On a small shelf near the window sat the evidence that had changed everything. The hospital bracelet was preserved inside a clear protective case. Beside it was the old photograph Willow had found, placed back inside a proper frame. The items that had once been hidden were now displayed where everyone could see them, not as weapons, as reminders. Leo stood beside Willow and looked at the bracelet. You know, he said quietly, most people in my world spend their lives trying to be powerful enough that nobody can question them. Willow looked up at him. But you listened. Leo was silent. That sentence reached deeper than any accusation ever could. Because she was right. Listening had been the thing he had forgotten how to do. The baby who had been taken from his family was finally brought home after the legal process confirmed the truth. Leo did not announce the moment with cameras or reporters. He simply held his child and allowed the room to stay quiet. Later that evening, the mansion felt different. The security guards still stood at the doors. The empire still existed. The power was still there. But something inside it had changed. In the kitchen, Clara prepared dinner while Willow sat at the table with a new school backpack beside her. Leo placed a full glass of milk in front of her and noticed the old wooden box sitting nearby. Still keeping those things? He asked. Willow nodded. Some things shouldn't disappear. Leo looked at the bracelet case in the next room. The truth had survived because a little girl had refused to let someone erase it. And in a world built on power, the person everyone ignored had been the only one brave enough to speak. The smallest voice in the room had finally been heard.